There are so many people, crores and crores of devotees in our land. In devotional emotion, they are not lacking. But poor people have only emotion. Now they have to encash their emotion and they must be able to discover and realize God. Now in the matter of discovery and realization, you have to employ your intelligence. Now as I am telling you, God is everywhere, inside as well as outside. Where are you going in search of Him? If you cannot find Him in your heart, you will never find Him anywhere else. All experiences are inner, all experiences are mental. God experience also will be mental. Keeping the mind within you, should you search in your own mind and heart, or should you search outside in the manner of a pilgrimage? Tell me. Is God distant or is He the closest? He is the closest. Unless you close your eyes and look for His presence within you. Ramakrishna Dev was a pujari. He was doing worship of goddess Kali. And the puja was going on. But in addition to a pujari, he was also a staunch seeker. So that search was there. So he has been doing his puja with a lot of sincerity, not just as a priest, but more as a devotee and a seeker, a fond seeker of Mother Goddess. One day, in spite of his puja, which he was doing every day, and his seeking also, he was not able to make any headway, any progress. So he became dejected and disappointed. So one day his mind started murmuring. I am worshipping a stone idol before me. And I call her goddess, Ma Kali, Ma Kali, Ma Kali. But it is a stone. And the worship is something handed down to us by virtue of a great tradition. All this is agreed. All this is agreed. But I want to know, is there any goddess either in, behind, anywhere in this whole process? I am worshipping in the stone. I am addressing it as God, God, Goddess, Goddess. But is there any presence? What is it that I have been doing for years? So the dejection was so powerful that he did not get an answer from the stone. Can the stone ever speak? Huh? You anoint it, you garland it, next day you remove all of them, again put it afresh. So the anointing is done by us, the removal is also done by us. So we go on doing it. The stone doesn't get involved in the whole process. So he was not able to get an answer, he became desperate. In that despair, after all it is a Devi temple, there was a sword there. He took the sword and was about to cut his neck. When he was about to cut the neck, the sword fell and there was a tremor in his body and he got an answer to this question. You tell me, did it come from the stone or it came from within him? Huh? Ultimately, the answer he got from within. It never comes from outside. Never it comes from outside. Every form of growth is from inside to outside. Our whole body has grown from within the sperm, from within the ovum, from within that fertilized process. So he says, Astyupayo Mahan Kaschid. It is a great upaya. It has to be known only by the intelligence. Our emotional devotion is rampant in the country. But these devotees are not able to think further. I have been coming to the temple for decades. I have been doing this worship. But my worship is not fructifying, getting fulfilled. What is the reason? Why I am not getting fulfilled? Am I not a worshipper? Do I not want to fulfill my worship? So this question doesn't come to us. Questioning comes from the intelligence. The answer also comes from the intelligence. He was worshipping all right, but that particular day alone, he had an intense inquiry and questioning. When the questioning and the inquiry really became strong, instantly came the answer. This is the truth. So it is a Mahan Upayaha. It's a very great, magnificent means. Samsara Bhayanashanaha. That is the one which destroys the fear of the world. You don't have to fear anything in this world at all. We are part of the world. I have said earlier also, you should tell the world openly, my dear world, throw anything into me. Throw anything into me. Whatever you like, I will assimilate and dissolve all that. What I have to dissolve is not the world. I don't know whether you will understand me. What I have to dissolve is not the world. What I have to dissolve is what my mind sees and perceives as the world. When somebody scolds you, are you to dissolve his mouth, his body, or are you to dissolve he has scolded me? I have an impact in my mind, thinking that he has scolded. So the scolding and unacceptability, both are imprints in your mind. And what you have to assimilate and dissolve is these imprints. Cannot the mind dissolve its own imprints? चुप रहते हैं क्यों? Whatever my mind produces, can it not dissolve it? At the end of the day, all the impressions in your mind are completely suspended and you go to sleep. Nothing remains. If we can go to sleep wiping the entire wakeful impressions, can we not wipe off a small impression during the wakefulness? Not clear. अपने मन को आप गुलाम समझते हैं क्यों? Why are you thinking that your mind is a slave? The world is a slave in the hands of the mind. Mind is not a slave of the world. Astyupayo mahan kaschid samsara bhayanashanaha. So, there is a great means, a dexterous method by virtue of which the entire worldliness can be completely wiped off. There is a means for it. Did you get the point? You have to assimilate every time by the mind, mind's own products, not any external object. No object enters your physical body to find a place inside. They are all remaining outside. Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanamuttamam tenatyandiga samsara dukkhanasho bhavatyanu. Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanamuttamam tenatyandiga samsara dukkhanasho bhavatyanu. Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanam uttamam jnanamuttamam tena atyandiga samsara dukkhanashaha
Atyantika samsara dukkhanashaha
bhavati anu. This one sloka, again you should write, learn, and put it up at least in 2 or 3 places in your house. You know why we are not progressing in any walk of life? It is simply because of the lack of thoughtfulness. Everyone will have to learn to be thoughtful, thinking. I think most of us are spending time unnecessarily about other things, thinking about other things. There is something called Tattva Vichara. I would like to translate it as truthful introspection. The purpose of the introspection should be to bring about changes and improvements and refinement in oneself. Then I would like to describe it as infusional truthful introspection. The purpose of the introspection should be to infuse into ourselves the sublimity, the changes that we would like to bring about. Every day you should develop that habit. I don't think special time is required for it. Many of us are doing sometimes some routinous work. When we are doing some routine work, that is the time you can do introspection. The time that you spend in the bathroom and the toilet, very good time for introspection. Suppose you go for a morning or an evening walk. That is another time when you can usefully spend your mind, employ your mind in truthful, infusional introspection. Here he says, Vedantartha Vicharena. Vichara means this kind of an infusional, truthful introspection. Vedanta Artha. Artha can have 2 meanings. One is, the word meaning is meaning. Another is the object. The object for which we must pursue in our life. So the object of human pursuit is called Artha. The object of human pursuit. The object of pursuit for human life. Vedanta means the end portion of Vedas. The entire Vedas are a book or a source of knowledge. From the Vedas we only understand things to be known. Whatever we otherwise know, the Vedas do not discuss. Whatever we are unable to know, that alone the Vedas will discuss. Suppose the Vedas say fire is cold, we cannot accept the statement. So there is a pramana here, as Shankara would put it. Svavishaya shurani hi pramanani shrotradivad. Svavishaya shurani hi pramanani. In every walk of life, there is something called means of proof. All kinds of pramana are svavishaya shurani. They are supreme and sovereign in their own respective walks of life or fields. Shrotra adivadu. Just like our ear. Our ears are supreme in the matter of hearing sounds and determining the variations in the sounds. Identify them properly. Suppose 2 people are speaking. There is a difference in their voice and tone. Only the ear will be able to distinguish them and give you the final verdict. Similarly, eyes alone can give the final verdict with regard to the color and shape of an object. The tongue will be supreme in the matter of taste. Nose will be supreme in the matter of smell. And skill will be supreme in the matter of touch. And the ear cannot be contradicted or disapproved by negatived by the eye. So, Shrotra Adivadu, every sensory organ is supreme in its own area. This is something very, very important. So, when we see the world and we have our assessment of it, if Vedas say that it is not so, we cannot accept. That is why I said, if the Vedas say fire is cold, we cannot accept it. So, Vedas do not speak about all these things. What you are not able to understand ordinarily, that alone the Vedas would discuss. Now let us take one instance. My dear man, you are not the body. You only have the body. You have the body. Because the body is something that you have, you are different from the body. So you are the soul. Now this knowledge is something that we don't come across ordinarily. You may live for 60, 70, 80 or 100 years in the world. You will never come to know that I am the soul different from the body. So the Vedas make a supreme statement. My dear man, you are not the body. My dear man, you are not mortal. Your body is mortal, but you are not mortal. Simply because you are different from the body. If the body is mortal and you are different from the body, you cannot be mortal because you are different from. So you are a life or something like jiva or the spirit. Now they go on explaining further and further about what is that body different soul. The body is born, the body will die, and the body is subject to growth and decline. Because you are different from the body. Are you following me? You are different from the body. The body is born, so that birth does not apply to you. The body will die, that also does not apply. The body grows and declines, that also does not apply. You are different from the body, different from the body. When you are different from the body, if body is born, you are not born. If the body is stout, you are not stout. If the body is sick, you are not sick. Because you are different from. Now you start developing your thinking and ultimately reach a state where nothing that the body does is applicable to you. That is how we become liberated. The knowledge becomes so effective, so strong, so supreme, so sovereign in you that the body life has no more any binding effect on you. This is something very important. Now, the artha that is provided by Vedanta, you should determine the object of your life, the pursuit of your life, on the basis of Vedanta, on the basis of the Upanishads. What do the Upanishads say? Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Man can never be satisfied, the human can never be satisfied by wealth or money. Any kind of an external possession, nobody will say it is enough, sufficient, and no more I need. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Iha cheda vedid atha satyamasti na chediha vedin mahati vinashti. If you succeed in knowing the supreme truth in this life, your life becomes meaningful, fruitful, and fulfilling. If you are not able to know, then colossal, great is the loss. You know, when I happened to read this particular sentence in Calcutta in my pre-sannyasa life, I cannot tell you what was the impact in my mind and the intelligence. If you succeed in knowing it here and now, your life becomes meaningful, truthful, and fulfilling. On the other hand, if you ignore or fail to know this, then your life becomes absolutely lossful. This one sentence of evaluation is sufficient for you to pick up the object of pursuit in your life. You may have a family, you may have children, you may have wealth, you may have so many other things in the way of possessions in this world. None of them is going to fulfill your life or make life meaningful. We are a being given to the wealth and treasure of knowledge. And knowledge is something inner. It is a derivative of our buddhi, of our consciousness. So our wealth should be judged in terms of the consciousness that we are. So this is something very, very important. Na karmana, na prajaya dhanena, tyage naige, amrutatvamanasu. You may do anything glorious, seemingly glorious, famous also, in the way of an act. Hillary and Tenzing, they climbed Mount Everest for the first time. That was something of a feat, very great. People were praising them. In the course of time, after about 100, 200, 500 or 600 years, there will be no Hillary or Tenzing at all. Who will remember them? Many people may have invented many things, discovered also many things. What is there after all? What is it that they have left in the way of a bequest? So you will find na karmana, by doing anything seemingly glorious in the way of an action or an activity. No. Na prajaya, by begetting maybe a good number of children or a number of good children. na karmana na prajaya dhanena, by wealth. Not by any one of these man has attained immortality or the abiding glory in human life, fulfillment in human life. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naige amrtatva manashuhu. Only by sacrifice and leaving, abandoning, they have attained glory and fulfillment in life. This is another statement. These are all pronouncements, declarations, assessments, revelations of our Upanishads called Vedanta. Now, Vedantartha Vicharena, in terms of religion, how can you attain God? God is pervading everywhere. He is permeating in you, interpenetrating everything and surrounding everyone. God is present. But you are not able to realize Him or see Him. So I want to see God. People go to the temple. What do they see? They see an idol. And they come back. The idol idolizes God. The idol represents God. You are not going there to see the idol. You are going there to have a touch and feeling of God. That God is idolized by an idol. Nobody prostrates before an idol saying that, my dear stone, my pranams to you. Nobody says. We are always addressing God, looking at the deity. That God, how will you have a touch of? So here what is required is a presence that is everywhere, a presence that is penetrating you also. How will you have a touch of it? Only by your inner faculty. And what are the inner faculties? A feelingful and an emotional mind, an investigating and understanding intelligence. Only by the application of your mind and intelligence you will ever have a touch or a feel of God. Vedantartha Vicharena, that process wherein the intelligence is constantly employed, that is called Vichara. The word Vichara means truthful introspection, rumination, reflection. That is what it means. I am telling people many times, we have 4 levels of activity. One is the physical and the sensory one. Another is the oral one, articulation. These are the visible, external, gross things. The other 2 is, one is mental, whatever you do with the mind in the terms of feelings, emotion, memory, etc. And the 4th is using the intelligence and trying to inquire into, try to pursue the inquiry and then know and gain knowledge. Now in all these things you will find, if physical activity, one unit of physical activity has got one effect, oral activity of the same measure will have 100 effects. And mental will be 1000, intelligence will be 1 lakh. So much is the difference. Unless you are able to employ your mind and intelligence, you will never be able to get at the all-pervading God. We are missing Him. Why? Not that we don't have eyes, we don't have ears. Our eyes show only the object. Now God is a subject. The subject cannot be shown by the eyes or the ears. That is why we go to the temple, look at the deity, and when the devotee is full of devotion, he naturally closes his eyes. He doesn't want to see the idol. He wants to have the feeling of the presence of God. That feeling can be had only within the body, in the sphere of the mind, heart and intelligence. These are all very simple things, but we don't inquire about them, think about them. Whenever your devotion becomes deep, automatically the eyes close. That is why people want to meditate. Meditation is a state where the eyes remain closed generally. So that vichara is the process. Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanam uttamam. You have the uttama knowledge. Normally our knowledge is object based. Am I clear in my expression? What is the scientist enquiring into? He is enquiring into the objects. Using his eyes, using his other organs, with the aid of telescope and microscope, he is only looking into the object, the object hemisphere of creation. Now the truth is in the subject hemisphere, where we neither need a telescope nor a microscope. We don't just want even the eyes and the ears. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Do not hear any sound. Try to feel what is the presence within you. So the Uttama Jnana is not the knowledge of the outside objects, the gross things. The Uttama Jnana is the source by virtue of which you are able to employ your senses and have perceptions of the objects. The source from where perceiving proceeds, where perception is registered. Am I clear or not? Thoda soch lijiye na. Perception does not, when I see the watch, you mean to say my looking at the watch and my seeing the watch, they proceed from the watch or they proceed from me, the perceiver. So the perception proceeds from the inner consciousness. And when the perception is registered, that registration also is in the inner consciousness. The senses come in between and they cannot do the perception themselves. They have to be employed by the mind. They have to be employed by the intelligence. So, Vedantartha Vijarena Jayate Jnanam Uttamam. Uttama Jnana is had only by Vijara. Vijara itself is an exercise. That itself is a sadhana. Please enrich your life with thoughtfulness. Think. Whenever you get angry, you think, am I right in getting angry? People tell me, Swamiji, how to overcome anger. I think you have to get rid of your anger. That means you have to hate your hatred.